Hello and welcome to everyone to the Maine Monday Masterclass. I'm really pleased to be able to welcome Jo Ellen Grzyb to our Masterclass today. Hi, Jo Ellen.
Hi, and I'm so happy to be here. It's
really nice to have you on board. You have been a guest on our webinars for a few months now, so it's really nice to have you on the other side of the fence.
Well, also, just to put a plug for you, we've had some fantastic people come through your books to our company, so it's a lovely full circle now.
That's really good to know, and that's what we're here to do, is to add value out to our business community in these really challenging times.
Absolutely.
So before we get into the topics, I'm just going to do some introductions. So today's topic is all around training. We know that currently, under the redundancy and restructure challenges that businesses are facing, training and upskilling and repurposing skills is exactly what organizations need to be thinking about. And so Jo Ellen and I said, let's put something together that's really going to help everyone out there think about how training can help their businesses, help their organizations to get back to thriving in difficult times. So we're going to do around 30 to 40 minutes, as always. It's very much an interactive session. So you will see on the right here, we have a chat box. Please add your comments. Please add your questions. These sessions are for you. So if you have any specific questions, we would love to help and answer straight away in the session. As always, if there are things that you don't want to ask in the session, please feel free to get in touch with myself and Jo Ellen afterwards as well. And don't worry about making notes or anything like that. We're going to send you a recording of the webinar and also some information to help you decide what you want to do with the information you've gleaned today. So, Jo Ellen, I'm very much, we know Impact Factory for many years now. We've worked together bringing talent into your world, but as a training and leadership organization, tell me about the challenges that your client network have been facing at this time.
Well, it's really changed. So at the beginning of lockdown, all the requests were around, how do I work from home? Or as someone said, we're actually living at work. We're not working from home. So how do I manage all the distractions? And how do I manage team meetings and things like that? So that was almost immediate. And how do I help my people cope in a completely different way than how it's changed to now? Now people are actually looking at some of the practical things that they used to hire us for. And I suspect that's true for other training companies as well, is that, okay, now this has become the new normal. I don't know when we're going to go back to the office, to face-to-face, but my people need training and we have to provide it. And that can be anything from presentation skills to assertiveness, to line management, which you're going to be talking about, but also some difficult conversations, project management. So those are the things that people are looking for now in a way that they weren't looking for right at the beginning.
Yeah, and very interestingly, I've created a poll today to get a temperature of the room. And the question is, which areas of training do you think your people need? And we've broken that down into 3 areas. So leadership, soft skills, or then the management systems, the more technical skills that are specific to roles like finance, CRM management, perhaps technical. And I tell you what's interesting, so far the stats say 57% say that training is needed in leadership skills. So that would be line managers, leaders of organizations, and soft skills is 42%. We're just about scraping 1% for the role specific. So that just shows our 3 areas of conversation today are going to focus around which training is essential in these uncertain times. Soft skill training, depending on needs, and that certainly seems to be what the room need today. And then you're going to talk to us about what you feel are the 3 top courses to improve ROI on the talent and people in an organization. And we've spoken about line management, assertiveness, and building resilience. So we're really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say today, Jo Ellen. So you spoke about how at the beginning it was this almost sort of emergency, not panic, but just sort
a little bit of panic.
Yeah, fair enough. No, you're right. It was, and nobody knew what to expect. And we're not back to thriving yet, but we're in this kind of middle ground of, it's no man's land almost, isn't it? We're not back to where we were, but we've got to behave in a way that is going to lead us out of this.
Absolutely. I think that, we talk about the surviving and then thriving. And this middle bit is, well, which way should I turn? Which way should I go? Yeah. And as you and I, we've spoken so often, we are both people who, we problem solve and we go forward, and we act as though we're going forward. So I think that's, again, around training, is seeing that what is going to be, nothing can future-proof anyone at the moment, but what could actually build the confidence and the skills of your people and the people who are left, so that it feels as though you could tackle the problems that are going to be coming up.
Yeah. And interesting that the poll talks about leadership skills, because one of the areas that we are speaking to our managers, our clients about, and the managers of people, is that when you're hiring and then you're getting an ROI on the people in your world, what demonstrates good, what good looks like in a role has really shifted, hasn't it? It's gone from, specific outcomes or sort of specific activities that can be watched in an office to this remote world. I mean, what's your take on that? How do you think, people should deal with that?
Well, it's such a good point, because we see it globally, don't we? The leaders that we respect are the ones who are decisive, clear, unambiguous. We need that right now. We need it globally, we need it in our country, and we need it in our companies, so that people feel secure. I don't mean job secure. I mean that the leadership has taken good decisions, or even if they take decisions that aren't the right ones, there is something that gives people a certainty that their leadership knows what they're doing and is looking after them. And I think that the more ambiguous, or we're not sure and we'll decide this later, actually makes people uneasy. And when they're uneasy and uncertain, that's when their productivity will fail, because go down, because they're not sure, well, what am I supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to be doing it?
Yeah. And we've spoken a lot about mental well-being and mental wealth in this time. And I imagine the two are inextricably linked, where if the uncertainty of what am I supposed to be doing in my role, is my role safe, is one thing. But if there isn't that clarity from leadership, even though the role may be safe, people may still end up failing.
Well, if you think about just the logistics of it, most of us, when we went to an office and we were with our teammates, we kind of put our home lives out beside the door. And we might talk about this happened to me or that, and we might weep and, complain or whatever. But the focus was work. Working from home or living at work presents very different challenges. And that sense of insecurity, that sense of not knowing, actually is amplified working from home. It's not that people aren't good at working from home, but their problems are very present. You can't ignore the person in the next room, or the child who runs in the middle of a meeting, or the cat, or whatever it is. Yeah. And so I think that people feel split in their loyalties. And I think that can put a lot of pressure and stress on people's mental health without that certainty. We know that this is happening with you. We are okay about how you manage it. We have 24 trainers. Some trainers have, gone off the map for us, because they do have big home life agendas to deal with. And others have been able to give us lots of time, lots of free time, lots of creative time. And that's okay, because you can't have a one size fits all in this current situation.
And so that's quite interesting about leadership being flexible and adaptable with specific, similar to how we want our people to understand their roles, measuring outcomes, treating people as individuals. Our leaders and the leadership training for anyone that leads people, be it 2 or 3 people right through leading organizations, is really about understanding how to get the best out of people, how to give the most support. And actually, one of the factors that I hadn't really considered until I've started doing work and listening to our clients is that even though a third of organizations are considering redundancies, and that, as we see from the news and all the statistics, is so sad but essential, the impact of that and the other 65% of organizations are considering restructuring and repurposing the skills of the people that they're keeping. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and that is where I think you spoke before, just as we were sort of coming on air, about confidence and how that is key.
We found that, again, I'm going to just use our own example, is that some of our most experienced trainers, when suddenly faced with a new medium a new platform to run training, their confidence just went rock bottom and they needed training. That's what we did. We trained our people up in using these various remote platforms. So suddenly when you're confronted with something new, that will often undermine your confidence. And you use the term repurpose your skills. Can I do this? Will I be able to now manage a team? Before I was just a team member, but I've been promoted because we've restructured. And those kind of questions are the things that people need to build their confidence around, because otherwise it's just going to all go downhill. Confidence is what makes a skill happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we've been doing with our clients. So our business looks after the 360, the attraction through recruitment, the retaining and development through training and great onboarding and so on. And then obviously where needed, exit as well. But what we've been talking to our clients about is getting that clarity on what good looks like for each role from a skills perspective, from a behavioral and cultural perspective, and then giving the managers the tools to deliver that. So our world has gone from 80 onboarding and recruiting to 20% training, the other way around now. Now it's 80% is all about training, upskilling, repurposing. So we're going to talk about soft skills in a minute. But for our audience listening today, what would you say is key for them to be thinking about, or how to identify if the needs for training are there?
Well, I mean, this is something you've talked about in your Thursday seminars a lot, which is collaboration. It isn't you. I think that this is one of the ways, and the landscape has changed for the positive, is ask your people what they need. What is it that's going on for them? Is it just purely a confidence thing, or do they really, really, really need to learn new skills? Mm-hmm. And I think that is the first step always, is don't assume. And you will also find, as we have, that some people will just rise to the top who were paddling along really well, and suddenly they become superstars. Mm. And I think that that's one of the joys of, if we're going to say the upside of what's happened, is that you may find that you have stars and jewels in your staff that you just didn't realize because they weren't given the opportunity.
Yeah. That's a really key point, and recognizing what those skills are that have brought them up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about soft skills, because, from the poll, let me just have a quick look at if these stats have moved at all. So now a third of the requirements is soft skills. So this is a very important area. Tell me about soft skills. Sometimes, organizations aren't always willing to invest in them. Tell me what you see as soft skills.
Well, soft skill is anything to do with the way people communicate with each other. So it could be, yes, we've looked at leadership and we'll be talking about the others, but a presentation skill is a way of communicating, a straightforward communication skill, how you manage a project. All of those things are what we call soft skills, because they are about people to people and how you manage. And we were seeing this over the years. I mean, Impact Factory is nearly 30 years old. So we've been seeing... Yeah. Yes, exactly. So what we've been seeing is that the ways that people are managed has changed without question. It isn't dictatorial, patriarchal, although there's still some of those. It is far more collaborative, flatter systems. So you have to accommodate people's quirkiness, their individual needs, in a way that people haven't before, certainly in the early days of our world, where you were just told what to do. And now...
And people had to conform to that, didn't they?
Absolutely. And you could say that maybe people have to now because jobs are going to be scarce, but I don't think that's true. I think people have a lot more choice. Even in today's time where there is going to be unemployment, people will have more choice in the organizations they go to see, is the fit right? Do I want this company, not just give us a job, please, but actually I have some say in this as well. And because of that, I think that people, leadership teams really have to take into account what people want and need in order to stay or in order to be productive.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What you said about when they go out to bring those people in as well. We believe that 80% of somebody's success in a role when companies are hiring is based on that fit. 20% is on skills. Skills can be taught, especially the fixed skills like finance and technical, that can all be taught. But actually this fit of people and how they interact, and, forget the external customers. We are each other's internal customer as well. So if our skills are in us, trained or, inherent and brought in, but we can't communicate those and we can't work well as team members, it still doesn't help the business. So, soft skills are, essential, and
really essential.
We're going to cover 3 in a minute, but I tell you what, from my perspective, I've been looking at things like time management for my people. I definitely think the sort of managing oneself. I mean, we're all remote at the moment. I think the majority of the working world is still remote in the UK anyway. And I think sort of resilience and things like that. I mean, what would you say that as a minimum organizations should be looking at in terms of making sure their people are okay, even before we get into the communication and the team fit? How about helping people manage themselves? What would you say is key there?
Well, it is the fact that you have to give some license in a way that perhaps you didn't look at before. That people are going to be more distracted at home. Time management, you said that, because we don't manage our time in the same way. When you're in an office, you know that somebody might be looking at you if you're on your phone all the time or quietly making texts. We saw someone, the phone was right in front and they were texting in the middle of, so you can call that behavior really quickly. But actually it's very hidden now. It's very different. And so again, I just think it is around finding out what would help your people right now in terms of their being able to be more focused, maintaining their concentration for the work that they need doing. That in turn means that you have to be really clear. You have to maybe set tighter boundaries on what your expectations are, rather than this loose, just let me, you just get on with what you're supposed to do. That's harder for people. In the same way we talked about leadership earlier, right now people need very clear boundaries, because you'll know if you succeeded or not.
Yes, and people need to have that self-fulfillment without it needing to come from an external source, because of the structure of businesses at the moment, people working remotely. So that sort of being able to tick your own box and give yourself a pat on the back has to be really clear.
Absolutely. And you've touched again on this on your Thursday seminars, which I think have been brilliant. Anyone who hasn't gone, please go to them, which is, again, around where people are at, but also regular meetings with people in a way that you perhaps didn't do before. I mean, we were doing them twice a week at Impact Factory at the beginning, and now we do once a week. So there's a once a week catch up just to see where people are at. Yeah. This is around people's mental health and mental well-being. Is if there's a forum where they can say, this is going on in the rest of my life that's out there and not just work focused, you will have a team and a group of people that feel more cohesive because you're sharing in a way that perhaps you didn't share before.
Yeah. We talk a lot about return on investment and the time that organizations spend establishing what their needs are, then choosing their partner, their training partner, to help them teach skills, help people repurpose their skills for this brave new world. I mean, what is the key for you? I know for me, I've got my ideas about training and how we keep it alive, but what would your advice be to organizations who are thinking of embarking on training, rather than it being an exercise that happens away from the organization? How do they keep that alive and keep that ROI coming back continually in their organization?
Right. Well, this is where we get down to the nitty gritty of the courses that we think, we're seeing just in terms of what our tailored clients are booking, but also what books in terms of our open courses. And I suspect that this is true for other training companies, is line management, top of the pumps.
Yeah.
Yes, we get a lot of requests for leadership, but line management is because teams have changed. We have fractured teams. We have teams that don't look like they did before. People have been made redundant or they're still on furlough. As you say, companies are restructuring. And line management is essential for a number of reasons. One is, again, to keep the team cohesive and to have really clear team goals. One of the other things that happens, though, with teams that are working remotely is that if a difficult conversation wasn't being had before, it's really not happening now. People are avoiding the difficult conversations that absolutely need to happen. Otherwise, they fester. And that's when productivity really drops, is that issues aren't being dealt with as they arise. And line management will give people the skill to understand you cannot avoid having those conversations, and you cannot avoid actually giving people the skills that they need to be able to resolve conflict. Yes, sorry, go ahead. I hear you.
No, that's key, and I hear you, because I think there's been almost, at the beginning, again, a few months back, it was very much protecting of each other, making sure we're all okay. Yeah. There has been a consistency in productivity, however, in the majority, but a third of businesses have seen a drop in productivity, and as I said, the 65% that haven't seen that drop are having to restructure. Yes. So, it's very much that, line management, which is a style of leadership, but much more at the rock face of exact outcomes and exact, almost like a to-do list of management.
I think of it as the glue that holds an organization together, is that middle line management role is so pivotal. And I think maybe perhaps people aren't aware of how pivotal their role is. They think it's leadership team and the people on the rock face, but actually they're holding it together because they are the interface between that, the people who are doing the day-to-day nitty-gritty and the people who are kind of have the overall big picture of the organization. And they also are, these are another cliche, but it's the oil that keeps things working, because when there's a breakdown of communication and support, actually those people, who are being managed, their productivity will go down because they feel underappreciated and they're not given the levels, different kinds of levels of support they need, so emotional level, technical level, and just knowing what's going on in the organization.
Yeah, and also I think even if it's right now and things are working, line managers and the leaders shouldn't assume that doesn't mean it's broken, if you know what I mean. It will start to impact, as you said, if things aren't managed, even if they're all going right, they still need to be acknowledged. Feedback loops have to be strong, because there will still be gaps that can be improved to improve productivity even more. So it is really key to have line managers that really understand their job and do that really well.
Yes, really. Communication always for me is the right, the real key. And I know myself, I think I'm a really good communicator, but I've left someone off the loop something this morning and just thought, it happens. So the more you practice it, the more you won't. I caught it pretty quickly, but it still was like, I missed that really crucial involving someone in a decision. And those things, the more you catch them, number one, the fewer times they'll happen. But it is communicating to people. Even if you don't know what's going on, you can communicate that you don't know what's going on. Silence is not good in this time. It's not good at any time, but people not knowing what's going on or having a sense of what your leadership is doing is really crucial. It really will impact on people.
Yeah. And the silence actually allows people to make their own ideas up, which are much more detrimental. We don't want that. So I like that. Ask them, at least tell them you don't know and that you're trying to find out. Yeah. Right, we've got a question from our audience. Yvonne is asking, can I ask for advice about managing people who are trying to hide and finding the new video meetings intrusive? Oh, that's a really good one, Yvonne.
Well, this is where you have the difficult conversation. You certainly don't have it in public, but you just find out what is going on. What is uncomfortable about this? What are you frightened of? So I know that, again, with a couple of our people, as I said earlier, some senior trainers, they were just afraid of humiliating themselves, making a fool of themselves in public, in a public arena, feeling they're going to let down the company. So find out why they're hiding. But again, don't do it in a public arena. Even if they don't want to have a meeting like this, pick up the phone and say, this is what I'm seeing. It feels as though you're hiding. Be blunt. We talk about having challenging, courageous conversations. One of those is just to say, this is what it feels like from my side of the fence. It feels as though you're hiding. It feels as though you're not contributing. Let me find out what's going on with you.
Yeah, Yvonne, we actually I have a little video that I've recorded for our clients around how to create a structured feedback loop. And if you're interested, let me know. I can send that out to you, because then you can say to this person when you get them on a one-on-one call, I have noticed, and then you can talk about, well, this is what I'd like to see, and from this sort of structure, it makes everything objective and about business outcomes rather than a personal impact on that individual. And you're right, Jo Ellen, it could feel underskilled, and they might need some training or coaching to help them feel the confidence of being on video meetings. Usually it is something as simple, but it just needs addressing.
Yes, absolutely. And talked about noticing, we also have a structured thing that uses that exact same term. I noticed that. And again, it makes it objective, and it takes it out of the personal, as though I'm blaming you and accusing you of doing something, when actually all we're trying to do is find out what's going on.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I see your yes, please, Yvonne. I'll make sure you get that. And you can also reach out to us afterwards. I can give you a shout, and we can walk you through that to help. And that, if that's happening for you, that's going to be happening for a lot of organizations with their people. And every person not in the mix is going to hold back the productivity of the whole organization. So the next area that we talked about was assertiveness. So we've talked about line management. The next course you think really improves ROI is assertiveness.
Yeah, assertiveness is when we run free tasters every week, and assertiveness is just, it's one of the biggest, sellers, as it were, and our courses as well. Okay, so I talked about in line management how teams are restructuring. Well, one of the things that we see happening is that people are either being laid off or they're furloughed, which means the people who are left have more to do. There's higher expectation that they will somehow absorb other people's jobs. I mean, it's happened in our organization. So you have to be able to say no in a way that doesn't offend, doesn't make it look as though you're being stroppy or difficult. It's managing the way that you manage your no's, or that you give your yeses. So what happens is that people feel obliged. They feel they need to take on the extra work without saying anything, because they too are frightened of either being furloughed or laid off or not considered a team player. Yeah. And I think that, I know that when you learn assertiveness skills, it isn't about being aggressive. It isn't about saying, no, I'm not going to do that. It is actually finding questions that you can ask. Is this that you gave me yesterday more important than the thing you gave me today? What's my priority order? I'd really like to help you, but I don't think I can do that in the time frame you've given me. Ways that you can actually feed back to the people who are putting this extra pressure on you so that you don't collapse under it. People who come on assertiveness training are often at the end of their tether or even a little bit beyond. And if you can nip that in the bud and actually learn those skills really quickly, because they are pretty easy skills to learn, you just have to practice them. And that will actually make you not just more productive, you will be happier in your job rather than feeling, oh dear, I better do this because.
I talk about empowerment of the individual, and I think assertiveness gives any individual at any level of their role the room to be empowered, because we think sometimes it's the person who's more junior who's getting things piled on. But I'll tell you what, sometimes managers have people from their team coming to them with things to do that they know their team can do for themselves, but they don't want to say, you should know how to do that, because they don't know how to word it. So we talk a lot about these SMART objectives and kind of everything. I often say, no, it doesn't have to be a straight no. It can be a not yet. Give me more information and then we can understand. But I think because I'm confident and assertive, and I've been like that since I was 4, I've never thought to push back, but not everyone believes they can.
I think that's true. I mean, I am in work. I've always been very, very confident. Even when I've worked for organizations with real superstars in them, I was very confident. In my home life or my personal life, I used to call myself the walking doormat. So I really empathize and understand where people who have a hard time phrasing things like, I'm just going to get back to you on that, Meeta. Give me another 10 minutes. And then I can go away and I can say, can I really do this? Or can I manage it? Or what is it that I need from Meeta before I go back and say yes? Just something as simple as that is an easy skill for people who aren't assertive, because anyone can say, I'm going to get back to you on that. I'm just in the middle of something. Let me think it over. And that gives you some breathing space so that you find out what you want rather than the knee-jerk reaction of, yes, that's fine, Meeta, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then resent it. Yes is not a problem. It's great to say yes, but if you resent it and then you feel overwhelmed and overworked, that's where the problem is.
And I was going to say that is when you lose people from your organization, which is why the ROI on assertiveness training is key, because if people feel empowered, they will become more productive and they will stay in your world and give back.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, we've got a few more minutes, so I'm going to ask you to tell us about building resilience.
Well, resilience is sort of, I always think of, the first two that we talked about, line management and assertiveness, are really about your productivity at work and managing that. For me, the resilience is around your mental health. And because we are all, pretty much everybody is under this huge pressure because we don't know what's happening. And so we're a little bit at sea, or some people a lot at sea. And you don't feel resilient. People don't feel resilient. They don't feel that they can cope. And actually, resilience, we have whole vast swathes in our lives where we have been resilient. And it's understanding how to translate some of those things that you did that showed your resilience into the arena you're in now. And that will much more help your mental health and your mental well-being if you understand that well of resource, but also to know when you don't have that resource and you need to back off for a while to build it up again.
And in terms of your resilience courses, do you do role plays? Do you do how do you, because for me, that's a tough one. I feel that resilience is either something you have or don't have. So, how do you help people with that in their courses?
It's a really good question, because I think some people believe that you are born with it or you're not. It's not true. You can learn how to be more resilient. And it is around identifying the areas where you are resilient. I'll give you a really good example of where people often feel they're not resilient, and it's because they don't know how to ask for support. I have to do it all myself. I have to be the one. I'm not going to let down my company, my family, my partner, whoever it might be.
Yeah.
Actually, asking for support is a way to build your resilience. It seems tiny, but it's huge for people who feel they have to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. They have to be okay with everything, and they have to manage whatever is going on for them. Actually, asking for support, being clear about the support you need, is a valuable resilience tool.
That's so powerful, Jo Ellen. That's given me goosebumps, because you're so right. So many think that they have to do it all themselves, and the weight of that on their shoulders means they become less productive. So, yeah, and I think if you look at business leaders that have had leadership coaching and people in an organization who do thrive, it's those that realize they're not an island. We can work collaboratively. It's okay to say, I'm not going to meet that deadline. Help me with my priorities again. Is that all right if you help me? It's about continuing that communication for everyone, moving towards that greater goal, the greater good, and the goal that's clear to everyone.
Yes. You said this right at the beginning when we were talking about leadership and the skills around leadership. Well, vulnerability, I think, is being more and more recognized from a leadership point of view. And I think that, however where you are on the food chain, as it were, vulnerability and allowing people to see that is actually really helpful. I'm not talking about being in a weeping heap all the time. I'm just talking about being able to be open about, this is going on for me. Maybe you can help me with it.
Amazing. Well, Jo Ellen, your words and your experience definitely reflect the feelings of our network today. In terms of areas of training, leadership skills are up there at 69%, and the remaining are at soft skills. So it seems as though for those roles that are really specific, the individual skills are there, but it's about the skills that need to be repurposed. And for those leadership roles, really learning how to empower and lead your people through these difficult times.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what everyone's saying here. So what Jo Ellen and I wanted to do for everyone is just to bring you some insight into the tools and the courses that are available from both the Maine group and the Impact Factory. If that's something that you're interested in exploring further, please reach out to both of us. Our contact details will be emailed over to you. And likewise, if there are any questions, you can pick up the phone to us. We're here to help, and we just want to make your worlds more successful and happier places in these difficult times. Jo Ellen, it's been a real pleasure to have you on board today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully it's the beginning of a partnership that can really enhance and add value out there to our business community. Thank you so much. All the best. Bye-bye all.
Bye.
Bye.